And we're back. Welcome for a special bonus episode of Awesome Stuff Badly with me, Uncle Dr. Ernie. Got a few minutes here, so I'm just going to whip through and see if I can get some progress on our tests. If I recall, I cleverly set up some failing tests so that I could see how the system was working. I have no idea where that's coming from. That was very strange. Let's see if Gulp can do a better job for me there. Gulp, gulp. Yes, thank you. And inspect element here. As you know, we're running through our unit testing for our various components, and we're on the world object. And yes, this was something that I had been thinking about that we needed to do a better job with. Let's bring up TextMate 2, now in beta. Amazing. Only, what, 4 or 5 years later? Yes, so our world exists, it stores values faithfully, including dictionaries. We made that decision last time. Now we want to contain the RX capabilities. So because we have a need for using, we have a templating engine. Reactive coffee that we're using, and everything is based around that. In fact, we do a lot of behaviors where we bind to different values. So rather than having to pass around a separate object, it seems to make sense, I think to me at least, to just include that escape hatch or that output portal as part of our world. And rather than having it as another value, actually, we can make this a little bit smarter here. Is this that this is the cache RX. What we want is, let me just see if that's our friend showing up to pair with us. Yep. Let me go ahead and bring in Miss Whitney. Let's see if we can just do this live in real time. Ooh, exciting. Let's see, plus. Am I not logged in? Excuse me a second here. Swan Factory, sign in. Hope you didn't see my password. I can get her to, do I have to be in Chrome to do this, or can I do it from so I can do it here. Let's try it. Microphone's not working, or is hardware muted? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. It's interesting as my microphone did not work. Let's see if I can show my screen here.
Great.
Awesome. I don't know if you want to mute your camera or if you enjoy staring at yourself backwards. We are live on Twitch TV, so everyone, the whole world gets to see your smiling face.
Great. Hi.
Hey.
Hi, world. Hello, world.
All right. I got like 20 minutes before I got to head out, so I'm going to try and squeeze through some tests. So to bring you up to speed, I finally decided I had no idea what my code was doing, so I needed to basically bring up a test suite so I could start testing it. And after many false starts, I finally realized that the way you build for the browser and the way you build locally are sufficiently different that I cannot figure out how to make it work consistently between a test suite and the browser. So I said, the heck with it, I'll just run my test suite inside my browser. So what we do now is I just have my standard main file, and what main.coffee does is it loads a test module, and it just runs the tests as part of running the object. And I'll add some conditional code so it doesn't do that in production. But I like the idea that it's actually inlined in my test suite. The test suite is inlined in my code. And I did at least after once I finally did that, I found that the tape testing framework is a really minimalist framework. Works fine inside the browser for me. And so when I load my web page, it actually will run the test and just dump the outputs to the console. So I can see what's happening with all my tests at any given time. Can you see that okay, Whitney?
Yeah.
Okay. And the second thing I did was set up a gulp file, which is kind of like a rake file, to automatically rebuild my packages like Watchify was doing, and more importantly, do a browser sync. So if I go ahead and change a test, it will, and I save it, it'll automatically not just rebuild it, but reload the browser and push out the new test. So much more continuous integration, which is awesome. So the main reason I'm doing all of this is because I could not understand what my world object was doing. So I needed to clean up the semantics and start testing it more explicitly. And one of the things I decided to do, as long as I'm doing that, was to put the all of my values in the as part of the dictionary that's maintained by these world objects. So I spent a lot of time on this world object, I think since I've seen you last.
Yeah.
And this is becoming what I call a cached, cascading, callable property list. The idea is that I have, and we can see in the test suite here, it stores values like a dictionary, but it also has a list of elements or children like an array. And so it's both properties like a dictionary and a list like an array. And it's cascading in that every list has a parent. So you can define values in one area and see them in the descendants. In particular, the turtle object for drawing my turtle, the way it works here is, I list my the configuration file I use to populate that turtle. And some of these are direct values like the stroke. Some of them are computed values. It'll dynamically turn a property into turn a function into a value when it's called by just calling properties that are located here or further up in the hierarchy. But one of the fun things about this is this actually shows you, and this is now an array rather than a dictionary, this is what object-oriented programming looks like, right? Is that you have a series of methods that live in your class that are shared, and then data that lives in your instance.
Right.
And this is something that I've never actually seen before, where it actually, the code you write actually shows you how all these things relate to each other. And you can override, a higher level method just by adding it there. So it actually visualizes the inheritance hierarchy.
Right.
So that's one of the power of these cascading property lists. I crashed my server somewhere along the way. Why is it? Probably because I screwed up my syntax. It's probably fixed now. Let's try it again. Yeah, okay, it's better now. Let's go ahead and commit that. And I had inconsistent semantics for what was what, and so having children, which are all intended to be worlds, So when that was the thing I was working on there, is a make world method such that it will, when it adds a child, it always makes sure that it's a world with its own semantics and reactive map and all that sort of thing, versus just a naked property sitting on the world itself. Hopefully that'll be clear enough that I can understand what's going on. The other thing was that I had to carry around this Rx parameter everywhere, which is our reactive coffee framework. And so the test I'm working on now over here is to actually just have it always available as a method on the world, whatever the local world is, rather than needing to pass around a second parameter and worry about whether it's in sync. So, so the first one, I pass in the Rx explicitly. For the rest of them, we can just get it from its parent using the well-known key up here. And then I create that, and assuming that that works properly, then I will, this is important enough that I think I just go ahead and create custom methods for it. Accessors, which is just, so t colon gets rx dot, rx templating dot tags. Can I just return that as a property? You need to be a method. I think I can just make it a method in JavaScript classes. That I'll find out quickly. SVG tags, and then bind is rx dot bind. Oh, sorry, no, that should be get rx world.getRx. So that's something I need to define after I define get. World.get, or is it just that? And why is it?
What is UP? That argument there, that at UP. That's a button.
So assuming that I've done this correctly, which may be a big if, the way the CoffeeScript lets you define variables is you can just shortcut it so that instead of saying, you know, this up equals up, so at equals is the this,
right?
Shorthand for CoffeeScript. So world.get. That's the problem. So I do have to make this a function because otherwise it's not in the scope. It's trying to find, it's a class method rather than an instance method. So if I wanted to get the instance, although that's interesting. Ew. If there was a way to specify a class variable, then I wouldn't have to keep copying it around everywhere. I would just store it once and be done with it. But it is what it is. So, okay. So it's commit-am store rx provide rx methods, and it passes. Yay! And one of the reasons I wanted to do that was I want to be able to test in my subworld whether those things were properly passed down. So I add a test here, and it seems like it's happy with it. Let's just do a console log on it. Let's see if it looks like what it's supposed to look like. Oh, sorry, no, that was world.t. Oh, right. We want that to be sub.t, and then print it out as well. Oh, I love continuous integration. It's a method, not a property, so actually I need to run this to actually get the value out of it. It's still happy. Okay, awesome. So it, but our world is built on top of HTML, so I guess it's not entirely unreasonable to have custom methods for let's document this. I should probably just create an RX method. I'm going to end up being upset that I don't have it later. This becomes @rx. Notifications there. Go to my debugging statement, and kaboom! Yay! Let's make these a little bit more. Adding some more annotation to my tests so that I can be clear what they're doing. Tape is a very minimalist framework.
What is this called?
Tape. So in JavaScript, they have as you know, you may know, there is a huge proliferation of testing frameworks, test harnesses.
Yeah.
Partly because of the perversity of JavaScript, where you're running on the server, you're running in the browser, and you don't even have I/O in the normal sense of the word. So what happened is lots of these things were invented with different use cases, and there are so many of these that people created a standard output format called TAP, such that whatever your test suite produces, it can be fed to in a generic format. The test runner can parse and display whatever it wants, and people can create test helpers that make it look better. Right. And so Tape is a very minimal test format or test suite API. Basically, it has OK and equal and a handful of others, but it outputs Tape format, so you can plug it in or substitute it with other things. But yeah, it doesn't have a lot of the syntactic sugar where it can introspect what those things are and generate the labels for you. But it's good. So see what my timing is like here. Test annotations. So what I'm going to do next is, okay, so I confirmed that it seems to be generating and passing down these RX values, which is awesome. I have world from dictionary, and then I haven't actually gotten make world to work to test yet, but then I can just do that by substituting this here. And it should automatically switch on that and do the right thing. And similarly here. That fails. Awesome. So world from dict. And make world. I'm giving me two different answers. So let's make this sub D, sub m, and then this is that. Then this should be yeah, so them should be getting a string value rather than okay, let's just see what I was implementing there. See if I can figure this out in the 3 minutes I have left. Yeah, there's my timer telling me it's time to cut things short. Let's take a look and see if we can debug this in the time we have here. So we're in our world here. We have make world, which if the system, so if the type of value is already a world, just return the value. If the type of value equals object. So object string. I did it.
Yep.
Awesome. So we give it a value, we give it a dict. And so don't need that. Yay. And that's rid of our to do. And we are to done. And pass. Now let's see what else we have left in our world object that we haven't tested yet. I've had children. The world gets a lot more complicated when you have children. The bad puns practically write themselves when you choose the right metaphors. You missed the extended discussion on the nature of God in the previous test suite.
Is that test God, isn't it?
Yes, but we have the global object domain is the function you call to generate the world.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But you can't detect God directly, only by the evidence in the world that's been created. So the next thing we need to test is inheritance. So I will add a nice fail here. Do I actually have the desired result? But, you can't pass a string to gulp. And yeah. Okay, where's my t.fail? That's disturbing. It's supposed to be why is the this is very worrisome that I can't get my test to fail. No.
Okay, that fails.
But is that my right? Yeah, okay. My equal thing that passes, and then test inheritance. All right. Try to always leave with one tiny failing test to prime the pump for next time. You're busy on Friday, right?
Yeah, tomorrow it doesn't look good for me. But
okay. But if nothing else, I'll see you next Tuesday then.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for swinging by, and I will go ahead and actually let's take the 30 seconds to go to git checkout master. Oh,
Cool. I was just going to ask if you've been pushing this up to a remote repository.
I've been pass child test, git checkout master, git merge world, and then because I cannot get it working with the command line, jump back into GitHub and sync. Yes, and I actually cleaned up the README a little bit so it's somewhat meaningful and has probably broken instructions for how to get it to run. But if you're feeling at all inspired, you're welcome to go to the GitHub repository and try downloading it and seeing if you can get it to run. I have no idea whether or not it'll work because I haven't tested it with pristine install. But if you have some time, I'd be very curious to see what you find out.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds
Thanks
good.
so much for joining me, and we'll see you all next time on more Awesome